since I was little, I remember myself at the kindergarten school begging my parents to start me a musical instrument, like anything. But they would always tell me I'm too young for that and just be patient till I am mature enough as a children, of course, to start piano lessons and understand more. So that's what I did. I was not so patient. I was, all the time telling them to go to attend to do lessons actually. So when I finally turned up 10, they started me piano lessons at home with a wonderful teacher that really made me love the piano, completely love it. And a year later, I was doing in a smaller piano that was, from um, it was actually a little piano that was not professional or anything. I was just, doing it for fun. But then my parents saw how much I loved it, and they bought me a real piano, a big one, professional, anything. And I play the piano since now. It's my favorite thing to do on the whole world, and it really relaxes me.
It's so nice. I play the piano too. I love it also. What kinds of songs do you play?
I used to play, classics such as Bach, Beethoven, and that stuff, but I really got bored of it, like 10 years now. So now I mostly do covers from other people's songs. Now I'm working on Savage Love by Jason Derulo, if you have listened to that. Yeah, I'm working on that. All the morning I was doing that. And from TikTok, I saw a guy named Jason Sarste. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he did a song named Body, and it is amazing. You should definitely hear it. It's like, body, I'm more than my body, something like that. It was so catchy, and it was like only 3 chords. It was so simple, and I make it a little bit more advanced, if I can say that. I add the melody in my right hand, and I was playing the chords with it. I add some chords also, and it was a great result.
That's so cool. I want to do that. But yeah, I love doing that too. I look up like chords for songs and then I like try to make it fancier with like the melody in the right hand and stuff like that. It's so fun.
It is. I agree. It's totally good.
Okay, so my question is, do you have like a hit like why were your parents so kind of against it when you were young?
There were some lagging. Can you repeat, please?
Why didn't they want you to learn music when you were young? Just because you're too young, or is there another reason?
Basically, actually in Greece, parents most of the times force their children to start a musical instrument from a pretty young age, and the results are the opposite. For example, they quit or they hate it because they do something they don't like. I've seen like plenty of these examples in my life. So my parents didn't want me to start because they would like me to love it. When you're too young, like kindergarten school, 7 years, 5 years old, you don't know what you want. So actually, I was a kid that I always wanted. I always knew what I wanted. So they didn't know that yet, but now they know. And they just want me to do it because I really want it and I was aware what it is to play the piano, because you need to study, you need to, buy a proper piano, and you know, just just for this reason. And they have talked to a teacher, and they advised them not to start me yet because for the same reason. So it was for my best, not because they were mean or something.
Yeah, that
And
makes.
they were right.
They were what?
They were right in the end.
I wish I always knew what I want. I still don't know what I want. That's such a good like personality trait. Does your family have like a history of, because you said like in Greece a lot of people play music. Do your parents or like grandparents play music?
Nobody. I was the first person in the whole family. Like nobody. No uncles, no parents, no grandparents, no niece, nothing. I was the only one. And nobody ever sing. I mean, once my dad was at the elementary school, sorry, and he wanted to sing. He loves to sing, but his voice and the other people's ears didn't love what they would hear. So he went like to an audition to sing for a celebration or something. I don't even remember. And he was like, 𝗸𝗶𝗹𝗶, and the teacher said, go live from here, another one. And he got, not offended, but he got sad. Nobody. I'm the only one.
Oh my god, that's such a sad story.
Okay,
Where did your dad go to school? What city?
I missed that too. Sorry, can you repeat?
Where did your dad go to school?
He went to a normal elementary school, like near the neighborhood.
What
He didn't go anywhere straight though.
what town?
In Volos, where we live.
How do you spell that?
V
Yeah.
O L O S.
Cool. And you still live there now?
Yeah. When we had our routine, everything was normal before the coronavirus. I was living in the dorms in Thessaloniki, in the American Farm School, and on the weekends I was most of the times returning home. I would stay some weekends up in Thessaloniki, but it's still my home.
How long have you been going to that school?
This is my first year, but it's my first year at the farm school as a second year student. In middle school, I used to go to music school, and in the 10th grade also.
Like in addition to regular school or as like regular school?
When you enter the school, you need to take some exams, and they will pass you or you will fail. And after that, there are exams. Actually, it is like the normal curriculum every school does and follows actually the instructions from the government in Greece. But we have extra lessons and extra music lessons. Yeah, you don't just do music. So it was cool.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
And okay, sort of changing the topic a little bit, what other stories have your parents told you about like growing up?
Um, you need something specific to remind Greece or anything?
I mean, if they grew up in Greece, I would assume it would probably be about Greece, but really anything.
Okay. So, stories. I mean,
Or
my
your
grandpa used to tell me stories. One day, my grandpa and my grandma are from a small village pretty close to Volos called 𝗁𝗁𝗶𝗆. And it's famous for the archaeological sites there. But it is a village in the mountain, so there is kind of wildlife such as snakes, wolves, no bears, but anyway, he told me that in Greece, our ancestors used to work since they were little, like since they were at the elementary school. So he was pretty smart, and he was passing some classes. For example, first he was at the first grade, and then because he was so smart, he went to the third grade, something like that. The system was pretty different. Nothing was, you were not forced to do school. It was a choice by your parents. And so he started working, he used to take care of the sheep. And one day, a wolf came by to eat some sheep and goats, and he took a gun and killed the wolf. Yeah.
Wow.
I really don't know if that story is true, but let's assume it is.
That's great. Wait, so that was like in a farm she had sheep? Like how did that work?
Because they were like the houses were separated from each other. They had like a yard, but it was pretty big. In Greece, we have a specific word, but it cannot be translated. It was not like a farm, but everybody knew who is the owner of this specific land, if that makes sense.
What's the word?
They were separating the lands by themselves, in a way. Yeah.
What's
No
the
rules. No. Excuse me?
What's the Greek word?
It is Madrid.
Madrid.
Yeah.
And it means like the separation.
Yeah, it's it is an informal word. Informal. We have formal words and informal. It's like the local people say it mostly in the villages. Something like that.
Got it. Cool. So okay, how about like have there been historical events that have happened in the past, like either in your lifetime or your parents or grandparents, that maybe like you can tell me about, like that day or that day that your parents or grandparents told you about?
Yes. So it was again about my grandparents. During the years my parents were young, nothing really happened exciting apart from their lives, no historical events. But when my grandparent was young, there was a war, a civil war in Greece, and actually first it was how do we say when somebody takes the government because he just wanted to with the army? There's a word for this. For example,
Like
democracy.
a revolution?
No. When we used to have democracy, and then let me Google it. And then somebody came, Papadopoulos, and took the government because he wanted and he had the power. But no elections, no nothing. There's
Like
a word for that.
a dictatorship?
Yeah, dictatorship. Yeah, exactly. We used to have the dictatorship, and after the dictatorship, he was born when the dictatorship happened. Then there was a civil war because there were two different types of people. The ones that had the right beliefs, they were like more in the style of a dictatorship, and the other ones that were democratic, and they were considered the left side. Most of the left side people were they were forced to to leave the country or go to a deserted island where they were all gathered there, and in order to have time to change their minds and understand that what they believe is madness. But before that happened, not everybody were, not expelled, and they were forced to leave. The other ones were fighting for their beliefs. For example, when you talk with your sister and you don't agree, you talk with arguments about what you believe, and probably your sister answers back with her arguments. But instead of talking, they were killing each other, in people from the same family, and it was catastrophic, especially for Greece, because since the ancient years we were democratic with the ancient Greeks. We had the democracy, and then in the recent years, after the dictatorship, a civil war. It was pretty embarrassing for Greek history. So he was telling me about his neighbors that had that kind of style. My ancestors were left side, and his parent was forced to leave. So him and his older brother had to protect and feed the whole family, including their mom, because women in that time weren't that powerful. They needed to find a husband and make them kids, nothing more than that. So he knew what it is to be an adult from a really young age.
Because his parents were forced to leave and he had to take care of his family?
Yeah, only his parents, only his father. Women were just at home. They didn't have beliefs, they didn't have the right to vote, nothing.
And this is your, is it your great-grandparents? Around what years was this?
It was between 1940 till 1970.
Oh. So is it your grandparents?
So that was about the time all those things happened. For example, in 1940, it was when the Second World War happened in Greece, and then we had the dictatorship, and then we had the Civil War. So between that 30 years, and he was born in 1955, something like that.
Who?
My grandpa, yeah.
So he was born in the middle of the chaos.
In the middle of the chaos, exactly.
Okay, wow. Wait, he was born to your great-grandparents, but didn't you say that one of them was forced to leave? That your great-grandfather was forced to leave?
Yeah, he was forced to leave when my father was 7 or 8 years old, something like that.
Okay, got it. So in the 1960s, early 60s.
Yeah, somewhere between there.
That's crazy. And what else do they tell about that time? How
we usually don't talk too much about that. Only when the national days, when we don't celebrate, but we do some kind of not celebration. We just at school we do sketches and small theater, and we try to bring in everybody's memories what happened and what should never happen again. But it's a day we don't work, something like that.
So just to make
Um,
sure I'm clear, so your grandfather is the one who had to like take care of his mother and family?
yeah, with the help of his older brothers.
Hmm. What's his name?
And his name was George.
And what's he like?
He's dead now, but he used to be obese with white hair, but he had much hair. His eyes were dark brown. His nose was big and it had the shape going downwards. Um, he wasn't very tall. He was about 170, and he was very, very funny. Very, very funny. And
What's your favorite joke that he told? But keep going.
uh,
What were you saying?
I really don't remember because he died like 6 years ago. But I remember that he always made me laugh, and he was very wise. I mean, we live in a neighborhood close to gypsies, to a ghetto. So some of them, not all of them, are not the best people in the world. They might be even criminals or just thieves, but they would never, never, ever. That's our family because my grandparents used to kill sheep. So when we have Easter, we eat a sheep, a whole sheep, and we do in a do something like a barbecue, but it's a traditional one. There has a thing that we pull, and we do 𝗁𝗵𝗆𝗆, so it gets it's like an open oven. I cannot really explain it. It's a Greek traditional thing. So he used to, and we buy those sheep or goats. It depends what we want to eat. Not from the butcher shop, but from local people that we know they do such things. So my grandparents used to do those, and all the Hello. That was my brother, and all those gypsies used to buy goats from him, and they respect him. There's also a taboo between the gypsies. Everybody thinks that they're bad people, and they look them with a weird. They look them in a weird way, and it's not good. It's not nice because some of them are really good people, and so sometimes when I pass by, some of them, not all of them, I know specific people from there, and they tell me hi, and they always tell me your grandparent was a great person. So that's kind of emotional, even now after all these years. Or they have they have specific cars that they put in with the back open. They're like farmer cars, something like that. And they put vegetables, flowers, anything, and they sell them around the neighborhood or fish. And when they stop, and we buy or maybe some fruits, and when they stop, they always tell me, hi, take a gift for me for your grandfather, even now, after all those years. I mean, even people that anybody would not care about what they say. So, he was loved by everybody. That's where I want to conclude.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, did your whole family live next to each other?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, from the village I told you before, 𝗁𝗁𝗃𝗃, all our ancestors from this specific neighborhood, because it's a closed neighborhood, no strangers come, or because they cannot find it where it is. It's not even in the map. So all our sensors, when my mom was born and she was 6 years old, they moved and they built another house here from the village. Almost everybody, and now in this neighborhood, everybody is kind of related to each other. For example, me and my best friend, we're cousins, but not close cousins. For example, I mean that my grandma and um, and Effie's, my best friend, grandma's husband, are siblings. So in a way, we are related. Or for example, with another best friend of me, we're six girls that we were grown up together since we were newborn, and we all live in a house next to us, like 50 meters, 100 meters, and etc. So with another girl from this crew, we're first cousins. We have first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, something like that. We say it's a saying here in Greece.
And you said, yeah. Wait, what were you saying?
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you said your like family used to live in 𝘁𝗹𝗏. Is that how you say it, 𝘁𝗹𝗏?
Yeah, 𝘁𝗹𝗏.
And now you're in Volos?
Yes, but we have a house there, so we visit. And my cousins are there. My mom's brother with his family.
And that's where your grandparents lived?
No, my grandparent is dead, and my grandma lives where we live in the same house because there are two houses in the same building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, here's the kitchen, a bathroom, the living room, and up is another kitchen, another bathroom, many bedrooms, a living room. It is like two houses in one with stairs between.
How far is 𝘁𝗏𝗏 from Volos?
Just 15 minutes. It's pretty close.
Is your family religious? Or was it?
Religious, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My grandma is a Christian. My mom, actually, we were baptized and everything, but we don't really believe. We are not so loyal in the religion. We don't go to church or anything, but my grandma does. She used to have cancer, and she got over it, and she thinks that she got over it because she was praying. So she's after that she became really into she got really into church and God and everything and Jesus Christ. But we are not saying that nothing happened or there's no Jesus or anything, but we're not obsessed. We rarely go to church for weddings or only weddings. Yeah.
Speaking
So
of weddings, sorry, what?
Sorry?
No, sorry.
No, religious is not our forte, if I can say it like that.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of weddings, how did your grandparents meet?
Excuse me?
Have you ever heard the story of how your grandparents met?
Yeah, they were neighbors, and they had to. My grandfather had to ask for her hand to his dad. So they were neighbors, and they were getting out of the balcony and greet each other. but my grandma was shy, and she was barely talking to them. But deep down, she was in love with him, and when he was young. I have seen pictures. He was handsome, and my grandma was very beautiful. So there was a small flirt between them. And one day, my grandpa decided to ask her hand from his dad with a ring, and pretty much that was how they got married. But they were pretty lucky that they were both in love, because in most cases, women are forced to marry the men, because they had money, they had a stable job in those times. Now we do whatever we want. But of course, they didn't marry young women. They were marrying them at the age of 20.
Yeah, that's not, yeah. My grandma got married at like 16. So that's like good that it wasn't too young.
Yeah. And 16 is not too young for those years. I mean, it could have happened. Yeah.
And just your grandparents, like, they weren't too young.
They weren't. They were just fine.
And just to clarify, he asked his dad or her dad for her hand?
Her dad.